This is wide receiver Jeremy Kerley of the New York Jets, and you're listening to the Short Sports Show.
What is going on, guys? This is the Short Sports Show. I am your host, Daniel Short. Today is Friday, October 2nd, 2015, and we have a great show for you guys. We're going to be having New York Jets wide receiver Jeremy Kerley joining us, and I'm excited for that. That'll be later in the show. We have a ton of college football news to talk about, ton of the NFL news to talk about all right now, and I'm just excited. It's been a great week. It's been a great week for this show, and I want to give a shout-out to my cousin Jeremy, who you can follow on Twitter at @officialreco. The link will be down, or excuse me, his tag will be down below, and he made me amazing logos all late last night into the early mornings for the Short Sports Show, and it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect for breast cancer awareness, which, of course, is this month. So it was just, everything came out perfect. So go check out Twitter and Facebook to go check him out. Absolutely great at designing, and I'm glad he can do it because it was perfect. I was so happy and excited to upload it just right now. Just upload it. That's why I was a minute late. I was a minute late to the show. I had to get those uploaded. It was just, they're amazing. And before we start the show, be sure to follow me on Twitter at @short_sports 24/7. Again, ton of news, ton of topics to talk about. And again, we'll have New York Jets wide receiver Jeremy Kerley joining the show later on when we talk more about the NFL. And first, some interesting news that'll lead into a topic that I really want to discuss, and I want to get y'all's side of it. Let me know what you guys think on Twitter, Facebook, whatever. But that is, will LSU running back Leonard Fournette, again, he's a Heisman hopeful, just absolutely dominating college football this year, and as well as last year, did a good job in his freshman year. Will LSU running back Leonard Fournette sit out the 2016 season to prepare for the NFL draft in 2017? Now, by NFL rule, he cannot, just say, I'm done with football right now and join the class of 2016 for the NFL draft. He cannot do that because of NFL ruling. He would have to wait until the 2017 NFL draft to be eligible to be drafted. This is what head coach Les Miles said, quote, "To me, there's a lot of people out there stirring the pot. Let's just make controversy. Why not? Okay, I can't imagine that Leonard would be sitting anywhere inactive for a fall. I just can't possibly imagine it." Again, Leonard Fournette dominating football right now through just 3 games of football before Saturday. He has rushed for 631 yards in 3 games. 631 yards in 3 games. Most players don't even get that by like 9 or 10 games. I mean, that's unbelievable, including back-to-back 200-yard rushes. He also rushed for 1,034 yards as a true freshman last year. He did go to Twitter on Wednesday and said, quote, "I will never jump ship. I'm drowning with my brothers." And then later on saying, quote, "Never get lost in the fame stuff. Keep God first, and everything else will follow. Believe that." So we'll just have to see. I highly doubt he would sit out, and I agree with Les Miles. You can't imagine. No, I don't think anybody could see him completely sitting out an entire fall and watching his teammates go out there and him not doing anything and really thinking about himself for the NFL draft. I can't see it. I don't think a lot of NFL scouts would like that. I think he would still get drafted. He'd still get drafted in the first round either way, but people aren't going to like that. And this is also what Les Miles had to say. Quote, "I think there's a lot of speculation and a lot of conversation that speaks to what if for someone else. What if Leonard Fournette? What if? I guess what has to happen is the guy who worked as hard as he did and put himself in that position to have a great college career, maybe. What if? What if he's got goals to go down as one of the greatest running backs ever? What if he really enjoys his teammates and really enjoys being a part of a college atmosphere? What if he's serious about getting his degree? What if he has a financial position that offsets injury? What if? I mean, what if? My goodness, you could what if forever. The reality of it is Leonard is a squared away guy. He'll do the right thing. I'm for him. And what if somebody else made the decision? That would be only what if that I'd have a real issue with. What if somebody just talked enough to make a mess? I don't know. That's another what if. So really strong words by LSU head coach Les Miles. But former Heisman winner Herschel Walker agrees that Leonard Fournette has pro-level talent but should stay in school, saying, quote, "It's a bad idea to talk about leaving early. Just wait and your time will come." So that leads to should NFL or should then this all led into what became another story that I had for later, but I'm just going to go ahead and put it now because it all relates to the same thing, and that is what Minnesota Vikings running back Adrian Peterson said. He believes he could have made the jump from high school senior to NFL rookie if he had the chance to. And again, the question is everything's coming up because of what Leonard Fournette could do, possibly, if he was given the chance to play in the NFL next year. And this is what Adrian Peterson said, saying, quote, "Not to sound cocky or anything or confident, but yeah, I do feel like I could have came out my senior year of high school and played in the NFL. I really do. And I'll just say this. People were like, well, physically you weren't ready. I came in my freshman year and I was up for Heisman. I had a pretty good season, was the leading rusher." And, I mean, what he did in high school was absolutely dominant. Again, from Texas, so Texas football, the best football. Peterson rushed for 2,960 yards, 32 touchdowns as a senior alone in 2003. And then he went on to rush for 1,800 yards, almost 1,900 rushing yards, with 15 touchdowns, 5.9 yards per carry as a true freshman at the University of Oklahoma. And this is what he later went on and said. And then there were guys that went into the league that year like Cedric Benson. I felt like my freshman year I should have won the Doak Walker Award, which is for the nation's top running back. But they gave it to him. I kind of got off topic there, but anyway, I feel like I was a better player than him. And so I was like, I'm a true freshman, and if Cedric can go in to the NFL and play, then why couldn't I? Strong words, a little bit of attack at Cedric Benson, even though Benson was pretty good at Texas. The Bears did select Benson 4th overall in the 2005 draft. Peterson said Monday that he had not seen Leonard Fournette play in a game, just highlights, but really does want to see if, maybe he believes that he's NFL ready. Now, of course, this is all opinions. Leonard Fournette, they're not going to change the rule no matter what, at least right now. And Leonard Fournette will have to play again next season before entering the NFL draft. He has to wait till 2017 no matter what. But it is interesting to think and talk about because Peterson later went on an interview he had about saying he had watched with interest the Maurice Clarett lawsuit against the NFL back in 2003 when Clarett was at Ohio State. It challenged the NFL's rule that a player must wait at least 3 years after they finish high school before they can enter the draft. Clarett was 19 at the time of the lawsuit and finished his freshman year at Ohio State. Of course, we all remember Maurice Clarett was not successful. The NFL kept its ruling, making 20-year-olds the youngest player who have ever appeared in the league's draft, which is ironically with the Broncos. With running back Ronnie Hillman and backup quarterback Brock Osweiler. They were 20 right when the team selected them. This is what Adrian Peterson said, saying, quote, "But I was so happy with Clarett when that situation went down the way it did. And before the court's decision, I was like, wow, I might be able to leave high school and really make this happen. But I don't think there's many people that could do that, though. And honestly, there's truly not. And you would have a lot of high schoolers, even though it's clear that they are not NFL ready. I don't think any high school football player is ready. I know we're seeing, these small stories pop up here and there about a 6'9", 6'10", 7 foot, offensive, defensive lineman in high school and all this other stuff that it's unfair for them to play. And would they be ready for the NFL? I mean, they're 18 at the very oldest in high school. They're 18. You're expecting an 18-year-old to not only physically compete with 24, 23, 27-year-olds. There's no way. I mean, you still have a couple more growth spurts to have, and you have a lot of learning to do. You already have. When you talk about this, you got to go through every single thing, not just the physical aspect, but the mental aspect. You're having players that already at the age of 20, 21, 22 being drafted and not knowing how to spend money and how to deal with certain situations. So you're basically then asking an 18-year-old, 19-year-old to then deal with it. I mean, that's unrealistic, and it's a very, 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 very bad idea. And then you're going to have players, and especially if they move this rule back to what it is in college basketball and baseball, where you can just play your freshman year at the college and then go to the pros. Now, obviously, basketball is different than football. I still don't like that rule. And I know high school basketball, you can go. I don't like the one and dones. I don't like two and dones. I hardly like, leaving after your junior year. Now, of course, if you're a guaranteed top 15 pick, because there's a huge jump of money right there. Once from the first overall to 15 overall, there's a huge gap in money, both endorsements and your overall contract deal, especially once you get lower and lower. I can't see it happen. Obviously, I don't think it will happen. It's just a bad idea overall to have this topic for high school players to jump straight into pros. For basketball and baseball, baseball, you have a process to go through. Basketball, somewhat the same, but physically you don't have to worry. You're not going to have a 300-pounder or 250 plus coming at you when you're only 190, maybe 205. You won't have to worry about that. I like it. I like talking about this, but I just think that would be a terrible idea for high school players in football to be eligible for an NFL draft. And I don't think anybody would draft any of those players in the first 5 rounds. I mean, it's hard enough to be drafted overall after playing 4 years of college football and doing pretty solid. How do you think doing just 2 or 3 years in high school at varsity level and then trying to make something happen and be drafted? I can't see it. And also, I would not want to see the NFL do a thing where, back to my original point, was I don't want to see the NFL do a one and done, two and done type of thing. I want, where it's at right now where you can leave after your junior year, that's fine. After you've completed your junior year or you've been in college for 3 years, because some people are redshirt sophomores, you're still there for 3 years, that is fine. That's fine. But no true sophomore or lower should be drafted or should be even eligible for an NFL draft. And hopefully basketball can push it up a little bit and say, okay, you can either be drafted out of high school or once you go to college, you got to be there for at least 2 years. At least get your associate's degree. At least have something, some formal education there. And also that way college are making a little bit more money in basketball. Obviously you already have the big teams making it, but I would like to see I don't like seeing one and dones. It's the worst thing. So make it 2. Hopefully move it to the NFL ruling. I doubt that will ever happen, but it would be great for college sports to have guys stay 2 to 3 years in that sport in basketball. But that is just something to talk about. It's something to discuss. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Again, follow me on Twitter at @short_sports247 and let me know, should high school football players be eligible for the NFL draft, and should college football take that rule away so that way players can go after their freshman year? Should it be just like college basketball? I want to hear what you guys have to say. So let's move on back to the college football news, and it's also with the NFL. East Coast teams are preparing for the possibility of Hurricane Joaquin. Sports teams and leagues were monitoring the storm heading into the weekend's events. We have, and these are the couple events that are most likely going to be affected by this. We have primetime kickoff between Maryland being the home team and number 22 Michigan. That has been pushed up to noon on Saturday in hopes to avoiding any bad or terrible weather. And we already have seen flash flood watches in effect Friday morning until 8 p.m. Saturday night in the area of Byrd Stadium and College Park for Maryland. And then the kickoff for Nebraska and Illinois game has been moved up from 3:30 p.m. to 4:02 p.m. as a result of a shifting schedule. An ACC representative said the conference and its institutions are monitoring the forecast for Saturday's game, but that is still too early to know how much it will be affected. So we'll just have to see. And obviously the biggest game for the ACC is Notre Dame at Clemson. The Carolinas, I haven't really looked at the forecast, but I don't know if it's going to be too how the weather's going to be. Obviously they're going to get rain, but how much of it is the question. And of course that is a prime time kickoff game. You also have the Duke football team, which is scheduled to host Boston College Saturday afternoon, and they began offering discounted tickets and were sold up for 50% off with a 90% chance of rain or higher. As of Thursday morning, AccuWeather.com was calling for 2 inches of rain at Duke on Friday going into Saturday, with showers continuing throughout the game. So good for Duke to be offering a bunch, 50% off tickets. Probably still not smart to go. You can watch it on Watch ESPN, I'm pretty sure. I'd rather just do that. And an NFL spokesman said Wednesday that the league is monitoring, of course, the situation like everybody else into the weekend's games, but the storm could most directly affect the Washington game against the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday. Now, there's been multiple things what they would do. They both have the same bye week, so they could potentially have their bye week now, and then whenever, I think week 8 was their original bye week, then they would just play then. There's also talk that they could just switch the games and have the game in Philadelphia instead of Washington. There's also reports that they could have the game in St. Louis as the Rams are in Arizona to play the Cardinals, or in San Antonio. Lots of different things on what this could happen. I think the best thing is just to have a bye week now and then play your original bye week. To me, that sounds like the best idea. We'll just have to see and keep updating you guys. Of course, follow me on Twitter, again, at @short_sports247 to get it all updated for you guys. North Carolina, self-plug, I know. North Carolina linebacker Joe Jackson has decided to stop playing football because of a neck injury. A junior from Jacksonville, Florida, Jackson was injured in the opener against South Carolina, and in a statement from the school Thursday, he said he had consulted with his family and doctors to make what he called a, quote, difficult decision to stop playing football. He entered the season as a starting weak side linebacker and had 4 tackles in the opener. He also played 8 games as a reserve last year. The school also said redshirt freshman safety Cameron Albright would miss the rest of the season after having microfracture surgery on his right knee earlier this month. North Carolina, which is 3-1, plays at Georgia Tech on Saturday. Conflicting reports on Oregon wide receiver Byron Marshall, who sustained a leg injury that required him to be carted off the field during Oregon's 62-20 loss to Utah on Saturday. CSN Northwest reported Wednesday, citing sources that Marshall had unspecified surgery Tuesday, and then head coach Mark Helfrich told reporters Thursday that Marshall is week to week. Just a few days ago, though, it was reported that he was out for the remainder of the year. Again, last year he missed with a torn ACL. This year, another injury. They said that he was out. So now Helfrich just told Thursday that Marshall's week to week. Of course, the senior has caught 2 touchdowns and 121 receiving yards on 9 receptions this season, and is arguably the Ducks' most versatile offensive weapon this year. After recording a 1,000-yard receiving season in 2014 and a 1,000-yard rushing season in 2013. Also, sophomore wide receiver Charles Nelson was listed on the Ducks depth chart as a starter at wide receiver despite wearing a sling on his arm late in the Utah game. Nelson is Oregon's second leading receiver this season. And in bad news for Virginia Tech, as Hokies starting cornerback Kendall Fuller will miss the rest of the season after undergoing surgery on his right knee. Fuller initially tore his meniscus in his knee during the preseason camp, but tried to play through it. He missed last week's game against East Carolina and was reevaluated Monday, then had surgery on Tuesday. He does have a huge decision to make. As a junior this year, he could forego his senior season and enter the NFL draft. He was projected to be a first-round draft pick, and we'll just have to see now with the torn meniscus. So hopefully the best and a fast recovery for him, because he is one of the best cornerbacks out there. That is it for college football news. Let's go through our picks. We're making good time. We're doing a good job, guys. Finally, I got a victory last week against my dad. My dad is 2-1. I am 1-2. And this week, we could potentially have a tie. We have 6 different games that we pick differently. And I don't know. But I feel confident in these picks, guys. I do. I feel confident in these picks in the past. But I say that every week. So here we go. We're going to go through the top 25 games, or at least the top 25 teams that are playing. I don't know if there's 25 teams here. There might be. I don't know. Of course, Texas at TCU. It is homecoming for the TCU Horned Frogs, and I am excited for this game. We get a couple players back on defense. Obviously, the more the merrier, because we need help at the defensive line and defense, overall defense, just everywhere. Thankfully, we'll have a few players back from injury and from suspension, which there are mixed reports about the TCU suspension. Now, of course, when it comes out, a player gets in a fight and is arrested. Of course, the player is automatically the bad one. There are different reports out there that one of the football players was getting jumped by 3 other people. The other guy came in. Of course, being a football player and a defensive lineman, he's pretty strong. Knocked some dude out, beat up the other guys, and they just happen to steal beer at the same time. That is hopefully... I wish it was all completely 100% avoided, but let's not just go and judge just too quick, because Gary Patterson, he's kicked players off before. He's not afraid to kick players off, and when he brought back these 2 players after this incident, it shows you there's more than what people are really hearing and saying, because he's not going to bring, because we had Devontae Fields, freshman All-American, and was also picked as All-American his sophomore year before he played. He got in trouble with assaulting his girlfriend, and TCU kicked him off. If we're going to kick off a guy who had the potential to be a first-round draft pick, a top 15 pick, I'm pretty sure we kick someone off who is not going to be drafted. So I just had to get my little point out there. Of course, Texas, again, at TCU. Texas, multiple mistakes at the special teams. Back-to-back weeks. First week, it's their kicker. Then last week, it's their punter who cost them the game. This week, I don't think it's going to be any special teams mistakes that are going to cost them a game. I think TCU handles this pretty well with hopefully a 56-17 type win. I know Texas offense is getting better. Of course, I'm going TCU here. I think Boykin's going to light it up. I would hope to see 60 points, but after last week, a draining week, might not put up that much, but I think TCU has enough to attack this weak Texas defense, keep running this ball more effectively, and Gerard Hurd, best of luck to you, but you might have trouble with your offensive line. Then we have one of the best games of the week that's not being talked about, and that is West Virginia at Oklahoma. Both teams undefeated, and West Virginia, one of the best defenses in the country right now, even though they've already played a few teams, but they've dominated. They're consistent, though. They're very consistent, shutting out multiple opponents and holding them under 10 points. Just absolutely dominating. And their offense, even without Kevin White, they have been dominating on offense, scoring over 40 points per game. I am taking the upset here. I know it's in Norman, Oklahoma, but I am going with the West Virginia Mountaineers to get this done. I believe in them. They're going to be a tough opponent. Thankfully, West Virginia comes to TCU. It's going to be a very tough game, that game. I'm not looking forward to it. But I got West Virginia in this one to defeat Oklahoma. I'm still not sold on Oklahoma. I know they beat Tennessee, but, I mean, Tennessee is not the same Tennessee as we all thought this offseason. And I'm not sold on Baker Mayfield. I really ain't. I'm really not. I can't. Purdue at Michigan State. Obviously, Michigan State here. They've really not played anybody since Oregon. Minnesota, and we don't even know how good Oregon is now. Minnesota at Northwestern. I'm going with Minnesota mainly because, well, one, I think they will win, and two, TCU, of course, needs Minnesota to keep winning. They've had very close games against some really not so good competition. They need to beat a ranked team, so that way it looks better for TCU's resume. We also have Iowa at Wisconsin. I wouldn't be surprised Iowa gets a victory. I feel like this is one of those games where they get that weird victory of the year. But I'm going to go with Wisconsin here. Texas Tech at Baylor. Now, of course, I've said multiple times in the show, I don't like either team. But when it comes to Texas Tech and Baylor, I root for Tech so very much because, of course, not liking Baylor. I just have a feeling Tech is also very, very drained from last week. Baylor, not so much. They put up 70 points against Rice, but again, it is Rice. I just think, not having to go and lose such a close game at home in a weird fashion, Baylor might have the edge here, especially Patrick Mahomes, starting quarterback for Texas Tech. Still a little bit banged up. Hopefully he's all right and I'm 100% to go because Texas Tech took Baylor to the wire last year. I am hoping for the same, but this time Texas Tech getting the victory. Guns up or whatever the Raiders do, shoot, bang, bang, I don't know. I'm going for Texas Tech here. I hope they win so badly to knock off Baylor because Baylor, you haven't played anybody. You haven't played an offense like Tech, and I'm hoping Tech can win this game. So I'm pulling for Tech here. Ohio State at Indiana. Ladies and gentlemen, number 1 Ohio State goes down this week. They've struggled with multiple opponents of weaker competition. This week, they play Indiana, has one of the best running games in the country right now. It's at Indiana. You already know those fans are going to go crazy. It's going to be sellout there. I'm going for Indiana. I believe they can get the upset. I'm going to say 28-27 with a field goal to win it. Indiana gets this W. Alabama at Georgia. Alabama, I know we can't see them losing, being 0-2 in SEC or whatever, losing 2 games in the SEC. But this is at Georgia. Georgia is very motivated. Alabama is just trying to find its identity and keep hopes alive. I'm going with Nick Chubb to run all over Alabama. I know Alabama stopped Wisconsin's running game. I don't feel like it's the same. I am picking Georgia to get this victory. Let's see what else we got here. Florida State at Wake Forest. Of course, Florida State. K-State at Oklahoma State. I wouldn't be surprised if K-State wins this game, but I just don't feel like they have enough offense to make that happen. I don't believe in Oklahoma State. They're going to be, 5-6-0 or something, or 5-0. I can't. They're not good. They're not good. Texas took them to the wire. Texas probably could have won that game had they, of course, not had the fumble for the punt. But it took them to the wire, and Texas obviously not the greatest team right now. I have Oklahoma State winning, but I'm rooting for K-State. Let's see. Washington State at California. Going with Cal here. Ole Miss at Florida. I am going with the Florida Gators. I know they had a lot of things go their way with multiple 4th down conversions last week. against Tennessee and then barely beating Tennessee at the last few seconds. Ole Miss has been dominating everybody they played, but I just feel like this game in Gainesville, Ole Miss is not prepared. They struggle against Vanderbilt. They had a letdown after beating Alabama. Florida's defense is there. It's there, and I feel like they're going to be very, 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 very hyped for this game. And I think they have more motivation to win this than Ole Miss does. So Florida gets the W. Eastern Michigan at LSU, going with LSU. Mississippi State at A&M. What has happened to Dak Prescott in Mississippi State? I mean, did they really lose that many pieces from last year? I mean, Dak Prescott looks like a completely different quarterback than he was last year. Last year, Heisman hopeful, did an excellent job. I was really hoping TCU was going to play Mississippi State last year in the Peach Bowl, or if we had gone to the whatever Mississippi State went to. I was hoping to play them because I wanted to play against Dak Prescott. I thought it was going to be a great game. Obviously, it worked out for TCU playing Ole Miss, but he just doesn't look the same. He really doesn't. And this is a bad year because he had to prove to NFL scouts that he was ready to make the next step. And so far, he has not. He's playing a tough defense. He still has a shot to bounce back. And then this could help them a lot beating the Texas A&M defense. But it's at A&M, going with the Aggies here. Arizona State at UCLA, going with the Bruins. They have one of the best running games in the country. Paul Perkins, one of the best running backs that's not talked about in the country, gets the W here. Notre Dame at Clemson. If it happens, I'm going with Clemson Tigers. Michigan at Maryland. If it happens, going with Michigan. And then the last game, Arizona at Stanford. I wanted to go for Stanford here, but Arizona has the offense. I know they haven't really been showing the past couple of weeks, and I know it's on the road, but they know it's do or die to get a top bowl game. They got to win this game. And Stanford, you've come alive the past couple of weeks, but I'm rolling with Arizona here. Let's go Wildcats. One quick question I'm going to ask. I've been holding out this whole time asking it. Okay, Arizona is called the Wildcats. I think you know where this question is leading. Why do they say bear down? I get if you're Baylor because you're called the Bears and the Chicago Bears, but why do you say bear down if you're called the Wildcats and have no affiliation with the Bear? I'm just a little lost. I'm sorry. I need to know. It's a very important question. All right, moving on to the NFL. We have Colts quarterback Andrew Luck with his status for Sunday's game against the Jacksonville Jaguars remains cloudy after he was limited in practice because of a right shoulder injury for the second straight day on Thursday. Luck was restricted to handing the ball off and pitching it to running backs during a portion of practice the media was able to watch. He was also spent time in the indoor practice facility away from the media while the rest of the team was stretching and during the special teams part of practice. Luck injured his shoulder in the Colts' 35-33 win over the Tennessee Titans last week, and backup quarterbacks Matt Hasselbeck and Alex Tanney did all the throwing during the portion of the practice media was able to see. Head coach Chuck Pagano said Wednesday that he was, quote, supreme confident that Luck will play Sunday, and a source told ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter, however, that Luck is questionable to play. Another factor in the Colts' decision will be that the Sunday's game against the Jaguars is followed by a Week 5 Thursday night game against the divisional rival Houston Texans. Pagano did not talk to the media Thursday, and offensive coordinator Pep Hamilton would not address Luck's status. So it's huge because if they play him against Jacksonville, which, Jags, they got blown out last week. They play him against him, then he's got to be not only healthy, but 100% to play a much better Texans team. And that is the question in just a short week. So I think what they're going to end up doing, what I believe is a smart move to do, start Matt Hasselbeck for Jacksonville. If things get really ugly, then you could put, if it gets too close at the end, then you put Andrew Luck in there to hopefully get the W. But I believe Matt Hasselbeck, is capable enough to get that W against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That way, Andrew Luck has all week to rest up for the Thursday night game, which is a much more important game to not only play but to win. Even though both are the AFC South division, it's all going to add up. But Texans are a much better team, and also it's at the Houston Texans. Must get the victory. Luck has not missed a snap because of injury during his NFL career, and the last game he missed, check this out, was because of an injury in the 2009 Sun Bowl. 2009, guys. It doesn't feel like that long, but it has been. Because of a broken finger while at Stanford. At least to me, it doesn't feel like that it was that long ago, but it truly has. Eagles running back DeMarco Murray was listed as a full participant in Thursday's practice, which was held under overcast skies with a steady wind blowing, but he will be a game-time decision for Sunday's contest against Washington. Murray said, quote, "I feel good. We'll see how it goes. It felt better today. I made some progressions, and we'll see Sunday." Murray did not play Sunday against the New York Jets. He injured a hamstring during the middle of the week practice and tested it out Sunday before the game, and he just didn't feel good about it. He just didn't feel comfortable going out there and re-injuring it. You also have quarterback Matthew Stafford said predictability is not a problem with the Detroit Lions offense, despite opposing players telling wide receiver Golden Tate they knew what plays were coming in all three of the Lions' losses. Stafford said, quote, "I don't think it's a problem at all, honestly." Lions head coach Jim Caldwell acknowledged there were times when teams might be able to pick up on what Detroit is going to run offensively, but that is no different than any other team in the league, including what the Lions learned from film study each week. Lions safety Glover Quinn said, quote, "Maybe 3 or 4 times a game, he'll know what an opponent is going to run, mostly through film study, concepts, and knowing where teams like to go. Things every team in the league and most level of football study and scout." Caldwell and Stafford both said they felt the issue was being made bigger than it is. It all started when Denver cornerback Bradley Roby told the Detroit News that he knew what play was coming on his interception. On Tuesday, Golden Tate, wide receiver for the Lions, told Detroit Sports 105.1 FM that he had been told by opponents in all 3 games that they knew some of what the Lions were going to run. Stafford said no one has told him they knew what the plays were going to be were going to happen, adding that his 2 interceptions came on plays that were new to Detroit's playbook, which he said, quote, "Somebody must be hacking into our computers or something." And he was joking about that, of course. But they better get it together, or else Seattle is going to rock them on Monday night, and they better find something with that offense. I think Golden Tate's maybe just a little salty, hasn't been getting a whole lot of receptions, and how I know that is not only because I've been watching the games, but because I have Golden Tate on my fantasy, and last year he did pretty solid for me. This year he has done absolutely nothing, so I can completely understand where he's coming from. But Seahawks running back Marshawn Lynch is dealing with a hamstring injury, according to a source that makes him, quote, 50-50 to play Monday night against the Detroit Lions. The Seahawks have not clarified on whether Lynch will be able to play until this weekend. Head coach Pete Carroll said Monday that Lynch would undergo an MRI this week. And since being traded to the Seahawks in October of 2010, Lynch has missed just 1 game, and that was back in 2011 when he sat out because of a back injury versus Cleveland. He had 5 carries Sunday against the Chicago Bears, were his fewest of any regular season game for the Seahawks. And Lynch sustained an injury while making a 4th-and-1 reception with 26 seconds left to go. But the Seahawks, they might have found a little sparkle in their running game. And it could just be Chicago's defense. It's just this bad. But rookie Thomas Rawls played 51% of the snaps and carried the ball 16 times for 104 yards. Fred Jackson had 2 carries, 13 yards with a pair of receptions, but Thomas Rawls, I bet a lot of people picked him up on their fantasy. I guess I would too, but maybe I should. Shoot, I need an actual running back right now. I might have to. I might just have to. Just a couple more news before we get to the interview with Jeremy Kerley. The Detroit Lions are closer to getting their best defensive player back, and outside linebacker DeAndre Levy returned to practice on Thursday. Levy has missed the first 3 weeks of the regular season and the last 2 weeks of preseason after suffering a hip injury in practice. He said Sunday the hip was still a small little pain that was the main thing keeping him off the field. Also, New York Giants wide receiver Victor Cruz has been officially ruled out for Sunday's game against the Buffalo Bills, and there's no timetable for his return. He's dealing with a left calf injury, and he attempted to practice for the first time since mid-August on Wednesday, but obviously didn't make it that far. Tom Coughlin, head coach for the Giants, also confirmed that Cruz underwent another MRI. This now leaves the Giants with just 4 healthy receivers. If you want to have spread it out a little bit, you got to have 4 receivers, and if any one of those go down, you better be ready. You obviously Odell Beckham, Reuben Randall, Dwayne Harris, and Jeremy Davis. The Giants had 2 wideouts on their practice squad, and they also worked out former Giant Hakeem Nicks and former Patriot and Bronco Wes Welker. And when asked about Welker, who had a concussion history on Thursday, Coughlin said, quote, "He was healthy and it worked out well, but no sign, no deal." So bad news for Wes Welker. I would have liked to see him in New York. I think that would have been a pretty solid target for him, especially, just coming in here and there in his leadership with the younger guys, with Odell. I think that's a good enough reason to sign him. But it would have to be like the minimum of all minimums, veteran minimum, with not a whole lot guaranteed. Baltimore Ravens first-round pick Brashad Perryman underwent arthroscopic surgery on his right knee. This continues to be a frustrating and terrible season, rookie year for Perryman, who is yet to play a snap. Perryman is out indefinitely, according to NFL Network, which was the first to report the surgery. And, of course, the Ravens needed him because he was going to replace Torrey Smith, who left in free agency. And no Baltimore receiver outside of Steve Smith has more than 6 receptions this year. And then the news got even worse for the Ravens, as Steve Smith Sr. suffered a lower back contusion late in the third quarter in last night's game. After taking a hit, Smith walked a few steps back to the huddle and dropped to the ground and was out for the rest of the game. He had 4 catches for 24 yards before getting hurt. But despite losing Steve Smith, the Ravens pulled out a 23-20 overtime win against Pittsburgh for the team's first victory of the season. You know what's frustrating? So I'm at work, and a couple of my coworkers, we do pick-ems, just for fun. We just do our pick-ems because we all love football. We all have fantasy football, and we wanted to do this. We thought it'd be fun. But we go with the spread, right? My picks I do for the show, it's just head-to-head, who wins. For the spread, it's a little bit differently. I've learned now what the spread is. I really didn't know until a few weeks ago. So we've been doing it, and last night, Steelers, when they stopped them, even after missing the field goal, they stopped the Ravens. I was like, all right, Steelers are going to win. We all left. We had just got finished working. We all left. We were like, all right, that's a W for all of us except for one coworker. One coworker picked Baltimore. Everybody else picked Steelers. And I was telling him, because he was like, man, it's over. But I was like, something tells me that it's not over, especially after the Steelers had missed the field goal. I was like, I wouldn't be surprised. This game goes overtime, and Justin Tucker hits the field goal to get the spread victory for the Ravens. The Ravens were a 2.5-point favorite, or maybe underdog. No, they were the favorite. 2.5-point favorite. So all I had to do was win by 3. And guess what happened last night, ladies and gentlemen? The Ravens go to overtime, and Justin Tucker kicks the field goal to get the spread victory of 23-20. Man, I called it perfectly. And so you're welcome, Ravens fans. But, man, I'm already 0-1 for my picks, which I did pick Pittsburgh. I really thought they were going to get it, and they didn't. So let's go through our picks before we talk to Jeremy Kerley. New York Jets against the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins will be the home team, even though it is in London. Going with the Jets here, of course. I think they will get the victory. Miami looks so sluggish against the Buffalo Bills. Jets have a good defense. Jeremy Kerley is on the Jets. Had a breakout game had his first game last week with 6 receptions, 33 yards, and a touchdown. Look for him to get the ball more this year. Jets will get the victory, and hopefully he scores a few touchdowns. And a shout out to my show. Jags at the Indianapolis Colts. Going with the Colts here, with or without Andrew Luck. New York Giants at Buffalo. Oh, Buffalo. I feel like they're going to dominate this game. Going with the Buffalo Bills. Carolina at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Going with the Carolina Panthers. Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Washington team. We're going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles if this game happens, no matter where the location is. Oakland at Chicago. Surprisingly, Oakland is favored, and I'm going with the Oakland Raiders. Amari Cooper, got him on my fantasy team. I had to, and he's done work. Last week, he had a great game with over 100 yards, but I need you to score touchdowns, okay? You can get 100 yards. That's perfect. That's fine. That's going to give me a solid number of points, but I need touchdowns to really make it worth it. So, Derek Carr, need you to talk to Amari Cooper and get those touchdowns. Houston Texans at the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons get this W. Man, they look dangerous. Kansas City at Cincinnati. I don't know why people are not sold on Cincinnati yet. They've dominated everybody they've played. Going with Cincinnati here. Andy Dalton having a breakout year, and I'm so proud. As a TCU fan, I'm so happy. I knew it was going to happen. It's finally happened. I hope he continues that into the playoffs with the W. Cleveland at San Diego. If Johnny Manziel was playing, this game would break my heart because I love Johnny football. I love the San Diego Chargers. I'm going with the Chargers here, but I hope Johnny football does come in and play very well. And I wouldn't be mad if Johnny football came in and won the game, as long as it's Johnny football. If it's Josh McCown, I'm going to be very upset. I'm going to quit on the Chargers for this season, and it's just going to be a bad year if the Chargers lose to the Browns with Josh McCown. Green Bay at San Francisco. A few years ago, this game was a marquee game, one of the best. Both teams were one of the best in the NFL, and now Green Bay has kept that. San Francisco has not. San Francisco struggling. Going with Green Bay here, and I wouldn't be surprised San Francisco gets blown out 3 straight weeks with over 40 points given up. Let's see what else. We got Minnesota at Denver. Going with the Denver Broncos. St. Louis at Arizona. This is a tough game for me. A lot of people, of course, are picking Arizona, and I think it's like a 6.5 point favorite in Arizona. But y'all are forgetting Rams have a good defense, and now I know it's in Arizona, but I think this game is going to be a lot closer than what a lot of people think. Rams are that weird team where when they play against a sucky team, they're going to lose, and they're going to lose bad. But when they play against a good team, they keep it close. They know how to play some good teams, and they could possibly sneak a W. So I wouldn't be surprised St. Louis wins, but Arizona just looks too tough. I think they keep it within a 4 or 5 point reach. Dallas at New Orleans. Drew Brees might play, but even if he does or doesn't, I am picking Dallas. Now, I know Brandon Weeden, his first quarter, the first half, he was amazing, and then he just hit earth very, very fast, right in the face, and struggled in the second half. But I'm going with Dallas here. I think they have enough. They're wearing their dark blue unis. Apparently, they have, if not an undefeated record, wearing the dark blue jerseys on the road in New Orleans. So, not really. That's not the reason I'm picking them to win. I think they're a better team, and I'm going with Dallas here. And then finally, the last game, Detroit at Seattle. Going with the Seattle Seahawks. I think the spread was like 9.5. I'm not going with that. I'm picking Detroit on the spread. I think it's going to be a lot closer. But Seattle with the W. End of all. And this leads us to now a very, very exciting time. Jeremy Kerley, New York Jets wide receiver. And just for TCU fans out there, of course, you all know I'm a TCU fan. Just some of the things Jeremy Kerley achieved while at TCU. Following the 2009 season, Kerley was named the Mountain West Conference Special Teams Player of the Year after breaking the conference record for punt return yards in a season with 563 yards. He had 10 touchdown catches, 1 touchdown pass, and 2 rushing touchdowns in 2010, and he ranked second in the nation in punt returns and third in the nation in kickoff returns. He was also named the Mountain West Conference Special Teams Player of the Year for the second consecutive year in 2010, as well as second team All-Mountain West honors at wide receiver. Kerley was one of 3 finalists in 2010 for the Paul Hornung. I don't know. Hornung Award. I'm close. Anyways, which honors the most versatile college football player in the nation. And then finally, in 2011, winning the Rose Bowl for an undefeated season for TCU. And now with the New York Jets, 72 receptions, 2,106 yards, and 8 touchdowns. And now this is now his 5th year in the league. His best season coming in 2012, where he leading the team with 827 yards receiving. He had a concussion. I'll talk about it in this interview. During preseason, so it forced him to miss the first 2 games of the year. Finally came back in week 3 of last week. Did an amazing job with 6 receptions, 33 yards, and a touchdown. Had almost a catch of the year, but his elbow hit out of bounds before the second foot was in. So here is Jeremy Kerley, and I just want to say, first off, my fault on the first about 30 seconds of it. I tried to turn up the audio and kind of messed up.